You're listening to Money FM Radio 93.7. And just now, you are joining me on Money Meets, a show that allows us to meet people, obviously, that have made impact, influence in our lives. And even today, we're excited to have, obviously, besides me, obviously, is. Reverend Walter Mwambazi. Obviously, he happens to be wearing also many hats. Talk about him being an author. We actually could also talk about the fact that he happens to be a transformation and obviously cognitive enhancement coach. I've actually attended a number of conferences, obviously, that he's hosted. It's always exciting and talk about finances. We talk about business every day. And so all I'm saying is that it's actually very good to have you in studio. You're welcome. How are you? Okay, I hope we actually um, we do have him on board on the other side. Wow. Okay. So you could also get to contact us as well as call us on 077 That of course is 077 That obviously happens to be the number you are calling us on to contribute as well as ask those questions just like me today. Reverend, you're welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, and how are you this morning, Stephanie?
I'm excited and obviously I'm
Hello,
happy to
Stephanie?
host you in the
Oh,
studio
okay.
today.
Okay, good, good. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, a lot has happened. Obviously, it's been 6 months already in the year. And honestly, I still remember how everyone would be like, this is my year, and this is my year. And for others, not so good today. While for others, everything's good. How's been the year for you so far?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, every day that we're alive is a blessing. We're so grateful. I mean, you see God's hand at work, and it's always exciting to be there and to see what's going on. So for me, the year is great, never been greater. And every day that we're alive is an opportunity to be grateful and to move toward whatever it is that the Lord has ready for us. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's a great year. We're making progress.
Definitely. Well, as we get started, I think there's been a number of stories that we've heard about you. I mentioned a few. I mentioned the fact that, yes, you're an author, we've attended conferences, we've been transformed, and we've heard a lot of insights from you. But obviously, there's always that story that somebody hasn't heard. So, as we get started, maybe if I say describe yourself, maybe just in 4 words, how would you describe yourself?
Thought transformation leader, marketplace apostle, networker, speaker. You said forwards.
Definitely. Well,
That's
let's get
forwards.
started. Yes, 4 words it is. It is actually 4 words exactly. Well, obviously you do have a
Yeah.
background where you come from, your family. That's what we're excited actually to know about. Where do you come from? Where did you grow up from? Was it Lusaka? Obviously, when look at your name, obviously, for me. I think the first time I heard your name, I was like, "Is it a Zambian name? Is it?"
Yeah, Mwambazi. So we are right from the border between Zambia and Tanzania. So I have parentage and lineage from both sides. So both from the Tanzanian side as well as from the Zambian side. As if you go to our land over there, that's specifically in Bulungu, Mbala, and such places, you'll find that we have very strong ties, and a lot of our relations are across the border as well in Tanzania. Now, I don't speak Mambwe, but I speak very fluent Swahili because I grew up a good chunk of my childhood in Tanzania as well. So my roots are Tanzanian and Zambian mixed together. And so part of my education is done in Zambia. I started my grade one up to grade three at Lusaka Boys those days. And then I
Mm.
moved to Tanzania when my parents underwent a divorce, and I was there with my grandparents until grade seven, and then came back to Lusaka and have been here since. Finished my primary school at Treetops Primary School, opposite UTH there in Burma Residential. Then went to Livala Secondary School, where I did my grade 8 right through to grade 12. Very active in school as far as a number of clubs. So I was involved in the writing club or the writers club. So I said my writing at school. I was also very involved in debates. So I did go on to be the key speaker for the debate club in my school, and then also I was head boy at the school in '91. So I exited in '91, then went into a stint of music. A lot of people who know me from back in the day know that I was part of a group called Bass Rock Posse, which later became the Uchumi Brothers. We pioneered the rap art form in this country, worked with some of the older names from back in the day. So we do have interviews that people can follow where you see my backgrounds. I worked very, very closely with many of the artists from those days until 95, when I then left for the UK with my brother to pursue our music career, and was very active in my music career when in 97 I had an encounter with God. So for me, it's not one of those where somebody talked to me and I got convinced. No, I had an encounter with God. And after that encounter, I dropped everything musical and asked the
Yeah,
Lord to lead
more on
me
this journey
in a
to
new.
wow.
Yes, absolutely. And for me, that's the right word to use, because mine wasn't just a normal encounter, it was a profound encounter. Very, very profound. Absolutely life changing encounter, supernatural encounter with God. And so that changed my life completely and the trajectory of my life. And I went into church and ministry. I've always been a business person, so that was always running. But I had that encounter. I went into church and ministry, and because of my gift of speaking, I found myself in the ministry, and I was pushed into Bible school. I finished my Bible school and even went into ministry, even as I continued business. Got married around that period, 98, relocated to Zambia. Have been here in Zambia since 2001, where I worked and built a business with my mother, and then went into ministry as well. So we ran ministry. In 2007, I had another epiphany. I lost my marriage, went through a divorce, and then went through a bankruptcy as well. And those events put me on a primrose path to self-discovery, because at that point, then I had an opportunity to introspect and deeply search and understand my calling vis-a-vis what I was doing and why what had happened. And so began a very exciting journey from 2007 to date, which has taken me in this trajectory that I can say essentially is a marketplace apostle trajectory. But there's so many other things that I've gone on to do. Digital marketer, published author, copywriter, blogger, peak performance, neuro linguistic programming and cognitive enhancement coach, radio television personality, TED speaker, social influencer. All these things were birthed basically from 2007. I remarried in 2010, and I've been happily married ever since. And that's what I'm doing now. So I'm essentially on that path, which sees me do what I do based on what I just outlined.
Definitely. Well, I'm gonna take you back to childhood. So obviously,
Mm.
you did mention divorce at some point, or your parents did divorce. So I'm going to ask you how was it growing up as you as a young person? Obviously, you talked about divorce as well. I know that as you go through teenage stages, obviously there's always going to be those changes as a teenager likes neighborhood and stuff like that. Also, how did you
Mm.
deal with that aspect you just mentioned? I know divorce is not easy, especially on children.
It was very painful because my parents divorced in 1980 officially, but they went on separation in 78. And so that time we were very young. I was 6, my brother was 4. And so when I was 8, I started to live with my mom. So we were split. I started to live with my mom, and my brother remained with my dad. That had an impact because our life changed. We were living in Lusaka those days. My father and mother were both technically, well, my father was a civil servant, but my mom was a secretary in a
Mm.
private place. And so we had a certain life, a certain lifestyle, certain used to certain things, and then all of a sudden you have to be split. And as kids, you don't understand why, you're living in different houses. And I remember we used to, when I was at Lusaka Boys, my brother also started, and one of the things we used to like, which used to get asked by kids in school is, but why, if he's your brother, why is he coming differently from you? Why are you coming different and he's coming? Things like that. And yeah. So why are you coming from the same house? That exactly, and that's really difficult to answer as an 8-year-old, right? It's really difficult to
Yeah.
answer such questions, and so it was very painful. And then when my mom went to school, she had to go and further her education for the purposes of her business. I couldn't go with her, so that's how I ended up going to my grandparents in
Mm.
Tanzania. That was a really, really different experience because I was coming from a
Mm.
background, one on Mayadi. We used to live in Church Road in
Yeah.
Fairview, speaking English. Then I went to live with my grandparents. Now, my grandparents weren't, how can I put it? They were not poor. No, they were not poor by any standards. But it was a different life. It was a different life. And it's at the farm, and it's just a different life, no TV, no uh, it was just different. I don't want to spend too much time going into it, but it was just different completely.
Yeah.
And I guess also the language, because in Tanzania the main lingua franca is Swahili, so I had to now learn Swahili and then change that. And then we were in a place called Kasulu, which is like on the western end of Tanzania, literally next to the border with Burundi. So they also speak the local dialect there, which is Ha. And Ha is very similar to Tusi. It's very similar to Hutu. It's very similar to Kinyarwanda and Kirundi, which are the languages in that area. So that again is something I had to learn living in that place. Most of the kids walked around barefoot, and it was just a different life, like I keep saying.
Yeah.
Stooping toilets, and it
Yes.
was interesting. So there was a lot of adjusting. But you know what? Some of
Mm.
my most beautiful memories also are there. It was such a wonderful life. I was there for about 1981 right through to 1985 when I then returned back to Zambia when my mom had finished her course and came back. So that being separate from your brother, that having to watch the drama between your parents, that wasn't easy. And I knew, like especially now as a cognitive enhancement coach and linguistic and cognitive enhancement coach, I know for a fact that what happens to us in our formative years has a massive impact when it comes to your persona in future. And if you had hurts, if you had
Mm.
pains, if you had things that you modeled, that you saw in that time, you model them, and they come to manifest in your adult life. And so going into my first marriage, I guess there was so much of that had not been effectively dealt with. Yes, when you get saved, you become a new creature, but what gets saved is your spirit. Is your spirit. You reconnect to God, but your soul has to be re- transformed through the Word of God. So that's a process of renewal, and that transformative process takes time, and it requires to be handled at the hands of experts and individuals that have got a good understanding of the psychology around personality. And so a lot of us perhaps don't really get that kind of input. And so when you get into a marriage and you have two different people, you get together, all these pains and hurts from your past now manifest. and how you handle that determines whether you go on to have a successful marriage or you have a disaster of a marriage. Then unfortunately, my first marriage didn't go well at all because we both came from broken homes. And so you can imagine my ex-wife is also coming from a very broken home. I came from a very broken home. Statistically, that's like 4 times more likely to end up in divorce than if one comes from a stable background. So background does matter, and it really does go on to affect a lot of people when it comes to their ability to retain marriage and even to handle relationships of any sort.
Definitely. What lessons have you learned from your childhood that you still use even up to date?
I think the greatest foundation for me was my Christian foundation because my grandfather, I mean, even though I became an agnostic and really went very far from God in my teenage, right through to my encounter with God, the basics, those foundations were taught because I went through. I mean, being Anglican, we went through obviously confirmation classes, baptism classes, and all that stuff. So we don't do baptism. They don't do baptism, and they do confirmation. So we went through confirmation classes and got confirmed, and then grew up in that whole church thing. So that foundation, and my grandfather used to have devotions at home and would read the Bible and do all that stuff. So that stuff stayed. When I became saved and born again, it's amazing how all that stuff came back to remembrance. It really became a foundation on which I was able to now grow in my faith. So that for me is the most powerful, positive thing I ever saw. It's the fact that I was able to be in that kind of environment, the fact that I was able to be under the tutelage of such great servants of God, both my grandmother and grandfather. My grandfather was an archbishop in the Anglican Church. My grandmother was obviously his wife. And so she was a my busa, and watching these guys and watching their dynamics and learning and sitting under such, for me, was such a counter blessing to the mess that I had gone through because of, that we're going through because of all the divorce and the parents and their whatever they were doing over that. And so this, my grandparents and that experience was the plus side, and that stayed with me to this day.
Definitely. This is Money It on Money FM Radio 93.7. And obviously, we do have Reverend Walter Mwambazi, who happens to be the third transformation leader. And when we come back after this short break, we definitely will talk about the educational side, even though we had started a little bit. Don't press it down. And obviously, stay tuned to Money.
Can I please have one yellow apple? Okay, yes, I'm on radio. Okay.
937 is the frequency. Welcome back. This is Money Meet, and obviously we dive right straight into the educational side, obviously for those that have been following. And if you want to contact us as well as ask us those questions, contributions, the number is 077 290. Just before we get into education, there's always that one moment that's either embarrassing or the best moment in life that obviously when you look back is something that you would relive. So I'm going to give you the option of picking. It's either you share with us an embarrassing moment or something that was worth reliving. Which one is it going to be?
I think I'll go for what was worth reliving. And I'm
Okay,
trying.
let's get into what was worth reliving.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think right now. I still feel very strongly that the best bits of my story are still unfolding. So I can't say that I've gone through the best or the top yet. But Certainly one of the greatest highlights I've ever had in terms of personal achievements, and there are several, but this one is, I think, a really big one for me, was as a speaker to speak on the TED stage. That for me was an absolute highlight because it was something that I've been aiming for, and it was something I was looking forward to. And it's amazing to see that that particular talk has gone on to be the most viewed talk by any Zambian on TED. So that's and when I say Zambian, I mean out of the Zambian platform. So obviously, if we go to the international speakers, I'm sure people like Dambisa Moyo has far more views on TED. But certainly, coming out of TEDx Lusaka, my talk went on to be the most viewed so far. So we're just over 800,000 views on YouTube.
Definitely. Well, let's get into your educational background. I know you've shared a little bit, but where did you go? Obviously, primary school as well as secondary school. And then obviously we begin to look at the professional side, or of course, college.
Yes, I was in the UK then, so I did go to the Vision College of Theology and Business Studies. So I did a degree in theology and then a degree in marketing over there when I was there. So I haven't upgraded. I'm supposed to upgrade further into masters and then a PhD. But at the moment, I've gone very, very much into psychology and neuro linguistic programming because this is the study of behavior and human
Mm,
thought process. So I've done a lot of study in that. In fact, I've gone extremely deep into that. And that's because of the work I do, which is
mm,
mental programming and cognitive enhancement. So that has been the mainstay. But in terms of profession, also, I've done a lot of what we call little courses, and these are because they then suit what we do. So, authoring, writing, copywriting, digital marketing, things of that nature have certainly been fortes that I've delved into and worked very much to really bring out the best I can. I've found as I've grown older that specializing through certification for those who are looking to get some kind of approval or skill filling or gaps is a far more effective way because I run my own business. So there are certain areas where you realize there's a handicap here. Let me go pay for that course and learn. So I've done a lot more of that than going for the formal, traditional 4 years, 8 years kind of courses. I will do it, especially theology, because I want to go all the way to doctorate level. So certainly I'll do that. And again, I'm not doing these because of jobs. No, we create the jobs ourselves, but it's because of being
mm,
able to effectively articulate and execute assignments that God has given.
mm. Well, I believe that you are somebody that believes so much in education. So, how was it obviously going to college as you? Was it easy? Was it hard? Did you face any challenges? As a student, were you the most intelligent? Were you, among the trying, or you had to hold the book the whole time? Somebody would call a book.
No, no. I've always been. I again, we're not trying to blow our own horns, but I've always been the smart kid in school. I wasn't the best, but I was certainly nowhere near the middle. I was near the top. But the difference with me is I always, even as a
Mm,
kid, I always challenged convention. So I'm not the kind of guy that would want to learn and read and then just regurgitate whatever is given to me. I am not that type. I prefer to be a thinker. And then I'm a very creative person, so I'm a right brainer. And so, because of that, I easily
mm,
bore from routine. So it's one of the reasons why I even when I went to college, I knew what I was looking for and that was focused towards what I was doing in terms of my profession. So I have a very strong marketing background. I'm a very prolific seller and marketer, and so based on that, and then as I'm sure you notice, my DNA is communication. So I'm a wordsmith. That's the word. Uh, I am very articulate because of my deliberate consistency in the use of words and how to construct those words in order to solicit different reactions from audiences depending on whom I'm addressing and for what reason I'm doing so. So communication for me is a massive thing, and that's why I get my strengths lie in this space of communicating. So even at school, even as a learner, it has always been geared towards that. And as I've grown older, when I really came to understand my strength as a creative, the focus has really shifted away from academia towards what I'm going to call pioneering thinking. How do we impact society through the introduction of ideas? So, ideologies, if you like. And by bringing those ideas, you then disrupt the conformity of society and the thinking and culture thereof. This is really my end game. And obviously, I don't want to get into the agenda behind that, but very simply put, it's challenging convention. And and of course this leads me to the biggest issue. Even as I learned, it's amazing that in school I wasn't a very big fan of history, but as an author, communicator, as a person that's a marketplace apostle, as an individual trying to understand and explain the dilemmas that face Africa, I became a voracious student of history, like a massively crazy student of
Could
history,
we pick
because
it for?
now, say again. Oh yes, please, let's do so.
Could we
I
pick
hope
a
we'll be
call?
able to hear it. Yes, please, go ahead.
Yes. Hello.
Hello, Mwambazi.
Buno Bwanji.
When the last question,
Yes.
what of some of us, by the way, it's Mark.
Yes, Mark.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask some of us who really wanted to pursue something in life. For example, some of us, for example, I want to study law. Then my parents are not okay with me studying law. They're busy pushing me to study, let's say medicine. They're busy pushing me to study medicine, So what advice can you have for people who are like us, who are passing through that, where my parents are pushing you to study something that you don't want?
Thank you. For calls and
That's a very good.
contributions to questions 1616290. Yes, Reverend.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's a really tough one. For me, you have to sell to the parents the idea that you really are more gifted in this law. This is where your strength is, and not the medicine which you're not interested in. And that's a tough call. But the truth of the matter is that when if you do something you don't like, you always will perform mediocrely. So the challenge lies in you marketing the law idea to your parents, because you got to ask them, why do you want me to do medicine? Probably because they either did it or they wish to do it and didn't do it. So we all suffer from the challenge where parents want us to do what they want to do rather than what I want to do. But truth be told, as a child, you have to go and sit down and really, persuade the parents to see it your way. Because if it's not in you, it's not in you. You underperform, and it'll just be a waste of time and money, both for them and for yourself. So that's the most you can do. Go sit down with them and really explain and show them why it's better to go the route that you want.
Definitely. I know we're using borrowed time, but having achieved what you have today, would you say you are happy today? And obviously, given the chance to change your career, what would it be?
I wouldn't change my career for the world. I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. One of the signs of knowing that you're truly in your calling is when your hobbies and your career align. That's what I always tell people. Most people, it's so funny when you look at a CV, at the top of that CV are their competencies, whatever they studied, da 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 da. And then at the bottom of those CVs is their hobbies and interests. What's interesting is most people are very, very good in their hobbies and interests. In other words, they do them naturally, and their jobs are a struggle. So a lot of people actually switch off from their jobs to get into their hobbies, and then switch off from their hobbies to get back on their jobs on a consistent basis. For me, that's a misaligned person. A person that's truly aligned to their call
Mm.
and everything about their calling will actually find that their hobbies and interests are 100% aligned to their career. So for me, for example, even when I say, okay, I'm tired of working, let me take a break now. Let me do what I like to do. You still find that whatever I like to do is tied up completely to what I do for a living. So for me, my job is like being on holiday. I don't, I've never, I can't burn out because it's natural. For example, people wonder, what time do you research? What time do you write all those articles? You write so much. The answer is, I'm a writer. It comes to me natural. It's not like I have to sit and say, oh, now let me write. No, do my boy, it just comes out, you know. So it's not something I struggle with. So writing isn't a hobby for me. Writing is a profession. Communication comes to me naturally. So there's nothing I can change now. Like change my career. No, I did that 20 years ago. I found, in fact, not 20, 15 years ago is when I really aligned. But 25 years ago, I had already found who I was. But 15 to 10 years ago is when I aligned correctly. And alignment is one of the greatest challenges so many face because a lot of people are square pegs in round holes. And you know you're a square peg in a round hole when you hate a Monday, when you can't wait to knock off on Friday so that you go and do whatever it is. When you're at a place where you can't, you look at that clock so that the time finishes. If you're in such a place, then truly you're not aligned. And what you need to do is get to be true to yourself. You need to move away from that place because every day that you're there, you are stressed. And when you're stressed, your body cannot live with stress for long. That's why many end up having heart attacks and dropping dead because literally they are tense in their jobs. When they drive to work, they are tense, they are angry because that's not where they want to be. For me, I said a long time ago, there's no way I'm going to spend 20 to 25 years of my life working for a boss I hate in a job I don't like. I mean, really, really, no. But the problem is that most people are too afraid
Definitely.
to
We do have a
to
comment.
take that bold step. Yes, yes, go on.
We do have a comment, and this comment is coming from Tawani. And Tawani is asking, how do you know that this career will actually work for you? Wow, depends on
Well,
what
are you
career.
good? Are you? The question is simple. Are you good at it? Are you good at it? If you're good at it, then fine. But the truth of the matter is that even being good is not a good sign because you can be very good because you have a personality that is meticulous. But the truth is, are you happy? That's always the question that for me nails it. Are you happy? And what is to be happy? To be at peace, to be content, to be pleased. Are you happy where you are? Now, there's people, of course, who are greedy. People want more, and they're not never satisfied with what they have. But I think the heart and the
Mm,
spirit always tells the truth. Yeah, your inside knows. If you're happy, you know, and if you're not, you know. So for people like myself, I'm very happy where I am. The only thing that really I'm left to see is a massive explosion of what I've been sowing all these years, and it's gonna come. That I know without a shadow of a doubt that there will be a massive explosion in the future because I have sown my seeds as far as the ground of my life is concerned, as far as the ground of society is concerned. And so I know I am on a collision course with my destiny. That is something that I know even as I speak right now. There are people hearing my voice and they can testify in their hearts that they are not where I am. So that alone is a sign that you're misplaced. So how do you know you're not in the right career? You have no peace. You're not happy. You dread going to your workplace. It's not about, and you know, one person said it very well. I think this is the best conclusion. They said, how do you know you're truly in your calling? Even if they didn't pay you, you'd
mm,
still do it. Now that's the answer. So even if they didn't pay you, you'd still do it.
yeah.
Then you're in your true calling. But if everything is about no, I gotta be paid. Oh, I need money. You know,
Yeah,
in other words, people like me. Let's go on, Stephanie.
I'm also supporting your thought. I think that's the best way to know. Even if they don't pay you, would you do it? That's actually a
Mhm.
very good conclusion, I must say. Well, time does not really
Yes.
seem to be our best ally, but of course, as I borrowed 2 minutes from you, what's your belief about family?
For me, it's paramount. It's the most supreme. Family is the core of everything because I always say this. Whenever a man is or a woman is dying, I've never heard any man or woman ask for their bank account balances. I've never heard a man or a woman asking to see the certificates of their car registration. I've never heard a man or a woman asking to look at their awards. They all ask for people. So people are the most important glue that keeps us together as human beings. And so who are the most important people? Your spouse and your children. These are the most important, then followed by your parents. And I'm giving it in biblical order, and then of course relatives and friends. So these matter, and so when all is said and done, as long as one does not build on that, they suffer for it later. So for me, family is absolutely paramount and supreme above everything else. I would rather drop any career opportunity any day to maintain my family, because I know when all is said and done, it is the family that I will impact. These are the people that will become the generation of tomorrow. Remember, I told you about the pain I went through because of being in a divorced family? That impacted me. I will
Mm.
make sure that I show and demonstrate the true character and state of a good man, of a solid man. We have a shortage of responsible, upright fathers. We have a fatherless epidemic right now. And it is the job of people like me to make sure that I'm the best father I can be for my children and for society. So that's why family is so important above anything else.
Definitely. We've come to the dying moments of the show. But of course, being in the financial space, of course, as an author, also being in the Christian circles, what can one look out for as they get to choose a life partner?
That's a really loaded question, and it can't be answered in one sentence. But I think common interests are very important. You have to have common interests because at the end of the day, two cannot work together unless they agree. So there has to be common ground. Both of you must have common things together, because if you don't have common things together, that becomes problematic for you because it will become a point of contention in the future. So I think common interests, for me, who is a believer, definitely somebody that's also a believer. But beyond that, also, you need to engage the wisdom of elders so that you are helped to see certain things that you may not be able to see. A lot of people have ignored the wisdom of elders to their detriment. I can assure you, if many of our young couples were, wise and humble enough to seek guidance from elders, many of these divorces would be avoided. Many of these problems in marriages would be avoided today. But it's because many of them don't think the elders know anything. And I understand that many come from broken homes as well, especially nowadays. But that's why you need to search deeply within your family and circles to see those that are exemplary, those that have maintained their marriages, those that have lived well, those that have been a good example, and then get counsel from those. They will help immensely. As they say in Bemba, achan, ikobokelo. What kobokelo te something? What's it said? Yeah, whatever. But engagement is not
That's
marriage.
correct. That's what you say.
Te chupo. So that is true. Even at that stage, there's enough time to back out, because a lifetime, let me tell you, when children come into the picture and then you divorce, it's extremely painful for everyone involved. And yes, you are free from horror or whatever it is, but you have just planted another seed in the lives of those children, and it will repeat in their life. It will come to manifest as well. And that's the really painful part about this whole divorce willy nilly type of, pick a partner, drop them tomorrow type of behavior. It doesn't pay off. It hurts everybody.
Definitely. Thank you very much for joining us today. Unless you've got final remarks, I think we could end here.
Nah, I'm good. I'm good. All the best to everybody, and I hope you continue keeping it locked on Money FM, of course.
Obviously hosting you today. We hope we definitely will have another chance to get to chat. But for now, it's bye for now and have a good day.
Same. Bye.